guys, welcome back to the channel. Today it's another sports bike week. You would say I was lucky if I wasn't overweight and kind of not as flexible as I used to be, so yeah. Let's just have a look at what I'm on and I'll get some stretches done, prepare myself for this one. Check this bike out. So this is KTM's RC125 and yes, it's orange. Do KTM do another colour? Just wouldn't look right if they did anyway. They're always orange. This is beautiful. I've said it before about sports bikes, but sports bikes, it's where it's at for looks. They just look amazing. So let's have a look around this one the usual way, and as always I'll throw some specifications as we're going. Let's have a look around it usual fashion, then we'll go for a ride and I'll tell you then, is it a used bike bargain? Is it one you should go for or should you avoid it? We'll find out after the ride, but for now let's have a look round. This bike is for sale at Intimoto at £3,299. What an absolute beauty for that money. Wow. Proper sinister looking at the front with those lights. Yes. And it just had to be orange. It's the rules. So like a lot of these 125s, this one has got a 4-stroke single cylinder liquid cooled 125cc engine, and this is right on the limit as what's allowed in the UK. It is 15 horsepower. 15. What a nice looking bike. A decent spec. We've got vibrators front and rear. Just a side stand. Practically speaking, it's a shame it's not got the centre stand. There are rear foot pegs for a pillion should you want to take one. Fuel tank's only 10 litres, so not the biggest fuel tank, but we all know 125cc bikes are very fuel efficient, so you should still get a fair few miles out of that before you need to fill up again. Buttons on this one, industry standard job. You've got your horn indicators, high low beam, and then there's a flash around that side. Right hand side, just your engine start and then your cut off switch. We'll have a look at the screen when we go for a ride, so you'll see that shortly. It's got an 820mm seat height, so I am pretty much flat foot both sides. We're on a bit of a slant here, so if it looks like I'm not, I'm kind of balancing it a little bit, but pretty much flat foot. As far as your seating position goes, pulling the jacket down, ready to breathe in. Yeah, it's your typical sporty riding position. You're bent over the tank. Pegs are in a decent place, fairly central. Don't feel like my legs are way behind. I'm not in a Superman position, but you can feel it on the back. So we'll see how long I can ride like this for before I start aching a little bit. The figures for this bike are very similar and comparable to the likes of your GSXRs and your Kawasaki's, your Yamahas, those kind of sports bikes. They're all hovering around the 15 horsepower. They're all very similar weight wise. This one is 135 kilograms. That's down as a dry weight, so you can add a few kilograms for that once you've got all the liquids in. But it still feels fairly light, and I've said it previously, I've been on bikes recently, scooters that have been not far off that kind of weight, so yeah, it's a light bike. Only thing left me to do now is take it for a ride. Join me for that. We'll see if it's any good on the move. Hope it is though, because it looks beautiful. The RC125. Anybody hearing performance test? Because I certainly am. I'm definitely going to take this one on the performance test route. I want to see how this performs today, so usual test, we'll do a bit of town riding I'll do a bit of twisty stuff, and of course I'll do the important performance test to see how this compares to the other 125s, or how this compares to the sporty 125s. Now, I've got to say, from being on other sporty 125s very recently, this one does feel a little bit more brutal in its seating position. I am sat forward quite a bit, and I am feeling a bit of weight onto my wrists. But it's to be expected, it's a sports bike. It's not as brutal as the bigger engine ones. It seems a little bit more tamer than those, but still, it is noticeable on the wrists. So we'll see how we get on, see if I'm in any pain after today. Now, I am noticing, as far as noise goes, it's very subtle. I mean, you can probably hear it. It's more of like a droning noise than anything that you'd ever get out of a 125. They're usually quite loud and whiny a little bit, or they'd have some sort of exhaust upgrade that might make them a little bit louder, but this just sounds really kind of mellowed. So 40-mile-an-hour road, yeah, it gets to 40 mile an hour very, very easily. Slightest twist of the throttle. This kind of riding and these kind of roads, yeah, it's not a bad option. It looks nice for the road. It certainly looks different, even comparing it to the other sports bikes that are currently into moto. This bike looks a little bit more aggressive, and I do think that. I think it does have a lot of sharp, pointy angles on it. Going through the gears, it's doing it very, very nicely. Going around the bends, it's doing it very, very nicely. As far as this screen goes, I'm told it is the same screen as they use in the RC race bikes. Just a nice digital screen. Rev meter across the top, clear and obvious center speedo that you can see very easily, and you've got gear indicators, fuel gauges, temperature gauges. There's a lot of information on that little square, so you can see everything really well. Now, this bike has got 5,425 miles, so it will have more than that by the time I'm done today. But it feels, actually, if this was a brand new bike, it gives that kind of vibe like it is a brand new motorcycle. Like the gear changes just feel very new. The way the bike is put together, new. And I'm sure walking around it, you would have spied, you know, it's going to have an odd little age-related mark because it's not a new bike. It just feels like one. So the last sports bike, or sporty 125, let's say, that I took to this speed test that I do was Honda's CBR 125, and it wiped the floor with the previous champion, I'm going to call it. So the previous top of the charts being the Vosjar 125, the Honda wiped the floor with it. But it's the first bike that I would say is a purpose-built sports 125. It's not a naked sports, it's the first fully furred 125 that I've took down there, and yeah, it wiped the floor with the previous one. So the Honda is the current champion of the performance test, but this could give it a good run for its money. Rather than getting loads of wind noise, let's just cut to the performance test. I need to big it up more. The performance test. Here is the performance test. A quick explanation for those who've never been here before. So I stop at the same place every single time. I know that because there's a little grid down there. I stop the front wheel just past the grid. and that's my starting point. Now down here you can see, maybe you can see if the camera's good enough, there's a little white building in the corner, and that is the point I try and get to, 60 mile an hour. Now to date there is only one bike ever that has got me to 60 mile an hour by that house, and it got me there quite a bit before, to be fair, and that was Honda's CBR 125. That smashed the previous record of the Vosges R125, which managed 59. So I want to see how this fits in with those. Is this going to get to 60 mile an hour before the bottom? Because the only other sports bike I've tried of this type is the CBR 125, and that did it easily. So is this going to do it easily, or is this one not going to make it? I don't know. It's a strange one for me, because on the ride up here I've done a national speed limit road, and this one didn't feel quite as quick as the Honda. Always the way, get myself primed and cars come, so I don't want to leave too small a gap and then not be able to get to the speed that I want to. I don't want to be held up by anybody going too slowly. But I think that's going to do us. Right, let's go. But it made it, so it's not let the sports bikes down. It's still made 60 miles an hour, but only just. Let's talk through that one. So as performance goes, it made the target, so it is made that 60 mile an hour. So it's only the second 125 I've ever been able to do it, but again, it's a sporty 125, so you would expect it to be better than something like the Vosges R125, which had been the best at 59. It got to 60, but it definitely wouldn't have got any more before that bend, because pretty much turned to 60 right at the end of where I performed this test. So it is only just faster than Vosges R125. Pretty much turned 60 as the bend started, so it barely made it, but it made it, and that's a good thing, because so many have failed before it. Now I know this bike is capable of going faster than that, because once it straightened up again and it started picking speed up, I had to slow it down because it was getting, it was going to go over the speed limit. So it's capable of going over 60 mile an hour. So I don't need anybody who's got one to tell me how fast it'll go, because I know it will go faster than 60. So the CBR is a lot quicker, and it feels quicker than this. Well, I say a lot, we're talking a couple of miles an hour, but in the great scheme of things, that's a lot. It feels like it's got a little bit more to it. Now, taking this on its own merits, because I don't want to take anything away from it, because the majority of 125s I've been on don't get near the 60 mile an hour, and this made it. So credit where it's due, it is a very good performing sports bike. So it is certainly up there with the faster 125s. It's not the fastest, as the Honda CBR has shown recently. That is quicker. However, it's up there. So if you're looking for a sporty number, then yeah, it's one to be considered. It's certainly up there with the fastest, but it's not the fastest. But let's talk about the other things anyway, because you know what I'm like, I get carried away with the performance test. As far as comfort goes, now the seat is actually quite a comfortable place to park your backside. I actually have no issues with the seat. It's very comfortable. It is a very comfortable place to put yourself. However, you have got a bit of an aggressive seating position. You are leant over the tank quite a bit. So as far as, oh hello, a proper Repsol there. I lost my train of thought completely there. So yeah, seating position. You are aggressively leant over the tank, not quite as much as a bigger sports bike, but you are putting quite a bit of weight on your wrists, so you are leant into your hands as opposed to being more of a saddle. So it's not quite the most comfortable bike out there, but it's not the worst as far as sports bikes go. As far as 125 sports bikes go, however, because quite a lot of them are more kind of generous with the comfort, let's say, I would have to say that this is probably one of the most, if not the most aggressive one I've ridden, just in that you are bent over the tank quite a lot. So if you are new to the world of motorcycling, you might find this a little bit too much extreme for you. I mean, you might not. If you've ridden bikes before, you might actually consider this to be comfortable. If you're jumping off, say, a 600cc sports bike or 1000, where you are properly over the tank, this might feel really comfortable to you. But I know from other 125s that I've been on, I would say no, it's probably more towards the sporty side than comfort. I don't think this could be a bike that I could, for instance, spend all day riding, because just after an hour or two I found that my wrists start to ache a little bit, and I didn't find that on Suzuki's GSXR 125 or Honda's CBR. I find them to be more of a sat-up type sports bike, so they're a bit more comfortable. However, this is just, I suppose it's the look it's gone for as well. This does look a bit more aggressive. It looks a bit more sporty, and in that you've got a sportier position. Performance is up there with the best of them. Not the best, but it's up there with the best of them. Styling. Now, styling is always, it's always a personal and it's always subjective, isn't it? What people like, others might not. Now, I personally, I like the angles and the styling on this, and I don't like many KTMs, if I'm honest with you, as far as styling goes. I don't like that stupid light setup that they have on, but I know other people that love it. So again, it's a personal thing, and personally I like the looks of this one. So I would actually love to know how you guys think of it. Do you guys like the looks of this bike? Do you not like the looks of this bike? Let me know in the comments. Oh, I went all high pitched. That's because I was in the wrong gear. I don't know how being in the wrong gear makes you go all high pitch, but it did for me. Yeah, it's a fun bike. Well, actually, no, that does it an injustice. It's a very fun bike to ride. I can't really criticize it as far as riding and fun goes. Yes, brilliant, but could I live with it? Yeah, I probably could for a few hours at a time. I think I could have a lot of fun with this bike. It is a cool looking bike. If you're going riding for an hour or so, yeah, it'd be a brilliant tool for the job. You'll get off, you'll be all right. But if you're going doing a long ride for several hours, bear in mind that this might not be the greatest for your comfort after that. But short bursts, yeah, loads of fun. And I'm talking as a middle-aged fat man here, by the way. So as a middle-aged fat man, I'm still able to ride this for an hour or two painless. So if you're skinnier or you're just a normal sized thin person, you'll be alright on this. I'm just talking to my fellow muscular people, let's say, that just keep all the muscle around the waist. Yeah, because that's where mine is. Anyway, thanks for watching. As far as would I give it a thumbs up, yeah, I would, because it is fun. Put it on your list as a bike to consider. It's for sale at Into Moto. I'll put a link in the description. Yeah, contact the guys if you are interested. For now, I'll catch you in the next one. Laters.